What is good, everybody? Welcome to the Gold Standard Podcast. I'm Rob Stats Guerrera. He's Levin Black. What's up, Levin?
Looks like the sky is up. Ceiling?
Really?
Anything?
Bad enough that you're going to spend the whole episode poo-pooing all the good stuff we heard from OTAs this week. That's how you started?
It's going to be so much better on video. The people listening on podcasts are going to be like, what the heck did he do? I looked up is what I did.
You have all week to come up with something good for the intro, and
I literally do not think about it at all.
Yeah,
and then you say something to bring it in, and I go, oh, what do I got today?
Yeah, I bet. When your head hits the pillow, I know that's what you're thinking about. Please rate, review, and follow the Gold Standard Podcast Network. Like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Become a YouTube channel member. It's less than $3 a month. You get custom emojis. You get membership badges. And when your comment comes up in the chat, you get priority comment response. So please, if you like the content that we are providing, become a member of the channel. All right, Levin. As I said, OTAs are here. Let's go. They're back on the field. Lance is throwing. Everyone's excited. New mechanics. Lance 2.0. Comeback season. Here we go. Feel free to poo-poo it all.
It's kind of a juxtaposition for me. Like, I want to be super excited. I am super excited that Lance seemingly has fixed his issues and he's finally evolving into what we all hoped he would be, what the Niners thought he could be. My problem is, and the reason why I'm trying to temper my expectations, is because it sounds like there's a very good chance he never gets a chance to show anything. Because he could do everything perfect. He could look like a dominant, great quarterback in these OTAs, in training camp, in preseason. If Brock Purdy is healthy week one, it will not matter. He will not get an opportunity to show it. And if Brock Purdy doesn't get hurt during the season, it means Lance never gets a chance and he is moved either this season or next. So it's hard to get super excited because there's nothing he can do in practice. And I've made this point months ago. Literally nothing he can do in practice to overcome what Purdy did in actual games and the faith that Shanahan seemingly already has in Purdy. So it does not matter at all what he's doing if Purdy is back for week one, and it's starting to sound like that's got a pretty good chance of happening.
Well, so yeah, that's the whole other part of this, is that I thought it was interesting that Kyle said, hey, we're hopeful week one, and there's no reason to think he won't be back week one. And then they asked Purdy about it, and he was a little more standoffish. Here's what Purdy said.
I feel good. Arm is feeling good. So to say I'm going to be ready by this time or this time, I just, we're not trying to label any kind of timeline like that. For sure, though, like that's a goal, right? You want to be ready for, the season, and if that's the case, great. But like I said, we're just taking it one day at a time and don't want to say anything that we regret down the road or whatever. I feel good. Arm is feeling good.
Sorry, Brock. That's enough. We already heard enough from you.
Yeah, shut up, would you?
So that I thought, my first thought was, well, the team told him not to, give any hard days. But Kyle was out there. He was the one that was saying they think week one.
See, I think you got that wrong there. The team did not tell him. His agent and his team and the doctors have probably advised him, don't put a date on it because you might try to push yourself too hard to meet that date. Let it come as it's going to, because if you push too hard, too early, you could ruin everything and your career could be over. So I would bet that's his advice from doctor, is don't put a date out there. Don't have a date that you think you have to make it back by. Listen to your body, listen to the elbow, and adjust based on what it is telling you once you start throwing. And it's Shanahan and Lynch who have been told, well, if everything goes right, it'll be week one, and they haven't heard anything bad yet. So they keep saying, oh, week one's still looking like it could happen.
Of course they haven't heard anything bad yet. He hasn't started throwing a football.
Yeah, he hasn't done anything yet. Exactly.
But that's the right attitude that Brock and his people should have, by the way. He should not be in a rush to get back out there week one, especially if he has as much respect in that locker room, as Kyle has said and the teammates have talked about. he should be in no rush. He should feel no pressure to come back because, like you said, the risk is just too great. Anything bad else happens to that elbow, and it could be his career. He needs to protect himself, and hopefully he does that. And I'm not just saying that as somebody that wants Trey Lance to start. I want all players to be able to play up to their potential, and earn as much money as humanly possible because God knows they deserve it. So Brock needs to do and take care of Brock. I know that's really hard because I'm sure he's a team first guy and all of that stuff, but he needs to do that, even if Kyle and John are saying week 1.
Yeah, it's a tough spot, I think, honestly, for Kyle Shanahan. If it comes the way that it looks like it's coming, Brock Purdy will be ready week 1, which obviously a lot of that is still to be determined. Like you said, he hasn't even started throwing. But if he is ready for week 1 and Lance keeps this momentum going, has a great camp, does everything that he's supposed to, and looks like the quarterback that they hoped they had when they drafted, Shanahan's kind of in it's a win-win and a lose-lose at the same time, depending on what angle you're looking and what part of it you want to analyze. It's a win-win because the team almost definitely is a franchise quarterback on roster. It's a lose-lose because whoever he picks, he's not necessarily screwing over the other guy, but the other guy is not getting an opportunity that they have proven they deserve. And it's just a rough spot to be when two people have done everything asked. Purdy proved it in game, and at that point it would be Lance proved it in practice and all off season. Well, to me, games outweigh practice, and we know that's how Shanahan thinks because he's flat out said he doesn't value practice nearly as much as games.
No, I think you got that flipped. At least in the preseason, he values practice.
In the preseason, yes, in the preseason, but in the regular season, I think it's the other way. So he's going to value what Purdy did in the 8 games that he got in the regular season and the playoffs over anything Lance can do from here, unless Lance gets regular season opportunities, which means Purdy's not healthy week 1. And that's like, I feel bad saying it because I just want the best quarterback that the Niners can have now and in the future. I kind of care a little bit more about the future than like right out of the gate. Obviously, like the first 8 games, I don't care about is the last 8 games of the season.
Mm-hmm.
But my ideal situation is Purdy's ready to go week 3 because that gives Lance 2 games to prove what he can do. And if he's playing balls out, he's going to stay in that role until he gives reason for Kyle Shanahan to bench him. Because if he goes out there and he, say he has 6 touchdowns, no turnovers in the first 2 games, there's no way you can bench him at that point.
Well, this is the interesting thing. Look at the 49ers schedule. Week 1, Pittsburgh. Week 2, the Rams. Then they play on Thursday Night Football in week 3, which means after that game, they have a mini bye. So if you did want to change quarterbacks, that may be a good time for Kyle. Right at the mini bye with the extra, if Brock is ready to go, he'll have a little more time in practice to kind of get up to speed, all of that stuff. So it's interesting that the schedule may be a factor, and it could be tough because week 1 is not going to be easy. The Steelers have a great defense. They are going to make it tough on anybody, whether it's Darnold or Purdy or Lance, whoever it is. There's a very good chance that the quarterback does not look spectacular after that game. So then it really comes down to week 2 against the Rams, whose defense stinks, and the Giants, who I don't fear at all. I don't think they're not bad, but they're not great either. You should be able to have your way with a team like the Giants. So it's almost like, what are they going to do in those 2 weeks? And then how does Kyle handle that mini bye?
Yeah, it's a good point. It would seem likely, I guess, because we know that Kyle changed the offense a good bit for Trey Lance and then went back to the old Jimmy Garoppolo offense for Purdy because they have similar abilities. So it's a good point in that I don't think he could change over the offense to go to what Purdy is best at in a four-day break. That gives you, I think you have 1 day of install when you have a Thursday game after a Sunday game, if I'm not mistaken. So it's like a very quick, you have a day off, you have a very, very light practice with install, and then you have a walkthrough, and that's it. There's only 1 day with light practice of actually doing install, and the rest is walkthrough. I'm pretty sure that's what the Niners have ran when they had a Thursday game.
Wait, you're thinking of before the lead up
right.
to
going into the Thursday game.
Right.
So that's not a good time to try to make a change because you're going to have to change the offense too
Right.
much
I see.
to try to do that for a Thursday game. So it would seem like if Purdy can't go week 1, it's going to be either Lance has one game and he's done because
Or
he
he
could do
waits
it going
till
into the
after
Rams
the
game, or he's getting in 3 full games. Like they're not going to make the change between that. And I would think that if he starts week 1, they're going to give him at least a couple of games just to know once and for all, you know, if he has truly turned the corner and become the quarterback they want, he's got to show it early. We know that at this point, unless Purdy has some big setback.
Man, it is going
You
to
can call it unfair, but it is what it is.
It's going to be so wild with this team. Like, it's never boring. Even last year is not a year they're supposed to be in the NFC Championship game. When you have all those quarterbacks get hurt, right. Debo had a massively down year compared to the year he just had. Like, that is not a year where you're supposed to be playing for a Super Bowl. And yet the 49ers find a way. It's never boring with this team. It's wild. And it's shaping up to be the early part of the season. It's going to be a roller coaster. That's why I'm so excited that they're back on the field. I miss it so much. We're so close. Oh.
You know what I'm most scared of? What situation scares me the most? It's not that, Purdy and Lance both are not good enough. You know, that Purdy either takes a step back or he has some of those throws that he made last year turn into interceptions, and he has a more realistic stat line, and Lance just never turns the corner. That's not the one that scares me most because I don't think it's very likely, honestly. I think one of them will be good enough. What scares me most is that Purdy's ready for week 1, gets put in there and does well enough, but isn't great. He doesn't hit the elite level, which I don't think Purdy has elite upside, honestly, which is what scares me and why I kind of want Lance to get an opportunity. But he comes in and he does basically what he did last year, where he's playing well. He's playing maybe slightly better than Jimmy Garoppolo. You know, at the time we were basically saying he's doing what Jimmy Garoppolo does in the passing game, except for he's hit 1 or 2 more deep passes. And he has this escapability. So sacks that destroy the drives aren't happening.
Yes.
And that is a pretty sizable improvement, but it's also one that's not quite as good as you hope at the quarterback position. You know, you have to have a stacked roster to win a Super Bowl in that scenario. So I'm worried that if Purdy's ready for week 1, he gets in and he plays at that level, he's never going to get replaced. And that means Lance never gets his chance, even if he has turned the corner and he has the great training camp like I've talked about. And then Lance goes somewhere else and shows everybody, hey, you could add an elite quarterback. And now you're here with the lesser of the two. Because you can't really blame Kyle Shanahan in that scenario either. If Purdy is ready week 1, I do think no matter what Lance does, he does deserve the first shot because he did it in games. So no matter what Lance does and how good he's looking, Purdy deserves the first shot if he's healthy week 1. And if he's playing as well as Jimmy Garoppolo or slightly better, he's not playing bad enough that you would ever want to bench him for an unknown that is Lance.
Here's the thing, though, about that scenario that you played out. If Lance does go somewhere and is great, yeah, it would hurt. But it also doesn't mean that the 49ers would stink, right? The 49ers did not draft Patrick Mahomes and then played against him in the Super Bowl. So, granted,
and how'd that go for him?
Well, but yes,
that's the problem. That's what I'm saying. Purdy could be good enough to not get benched, but not good enough to be a difference maker that you need to win a Super Bowl, except for in, maybe once every 7 to 8 years, there's a quarterback that is not at that level that ends up either having a ridiculous run. As Niner fans know, Flacco had that type of run. Flacco was never an elite quarterback, but he hit some kind of crazy mojo in the playoffs and had one of the best playoffs any quarterback's ever had, and then turned right back into a pumpkin after that because he was never the same quarterback after that. Or you just have a team, you have a quarterback that plays decently and the rest of the team dominates and they end up getting into a Super Bowl victory, which I would say Ben Roethlisberger's first Super Bowl victory was in that scenario. He didn't have a great playoffs, but the rest of the team was so dominant it didn't matter.
Yes, that's legitimate, and I agree. It would suck to see Lance go somewhere else, but I mean, Lance could go somewhere else and flourish, and Brock Purdy could stink, and the Niners could end up drafting somebody else who ends up being good. Once Lance leaves San Francisco, he doesn't affect the 49ers any longer. So
I know it would just suck. Like
Yeah.
I would absolutely, it would be one of those things that literally 20 years later, Niner fans that were old enough to experience are still scarred by it.
Yeah, it would sting. And by the way, speaking of things that sting, the Chris Sims quarterback rankings are out for 2023. Not totally. He's still working his way through them, but he did rank Sam Darnold and Brock Purdy on the rankings. I don't know if you saw this. He has Sam Darnold at 27 and Brock Purdy at 26. So Brock is better than Sam in Chris Sims' estimation, but not that much better.
Yeah, I saw it, and I don't know that it stings because honestly, Sims's track record with this ranking is not great, if we're being honest. I know he's a friend of sorts for you, a work colleague of a long time, but I will say what most of us think, and he doesn't have a very good track record of this. You know, if I'm not mistaken, what quarterback was it that he had number one in his? I know he had Zach Wilson number one, but he had some other quarterback that was like a 5th round pick number 2. Everybody was like,
well, not overall. You're saying from those
from
guys.
that draft class,
yeah. Was it Desmond Ridder? I know he had Desmond Ridder.
That. It was something really weird that everybody was like, what, how? And it hasn't worked out. And you've seen this list. We talked about it. Like he had Hurts 25th last year. We kind of talked about that a little bit before we went on air. So I don't know that it stings, but in terms of what I see, I see inconsistencies. So Sam Darnold moved up 4 spots based off a 6-game stretch that was decent but not great. Brock Purdy is only 1 spot ahead of him despite having the best 8-game start to anybody's career ever, other than, I think, Mahomes.
It is odd that Darnold would move up. It's weird that Darnold would move up. And for the record, I've reached out to Chris. I'm trying to get him on because I want to ask him all this stuff. I don't want to just, talk about it without him here. I love having him on. He's always been willing to come on in the past. So hopefully he joins us in the next week or so. But I want to ask how Darnold managed to move up because those 6 games are completely overblown. And I want to say this about Sam Darnold because I keep hearing the same things over and over again. People keep telling me he's got great feet. He's got a great arm. I don't know if he has great feet, but I know he gets sacked an awful lot. I don't know if he has a great arm, but I know it doesn't stop him from throwing interceptions. So you want me to stake the 49ers week-to-week fortunes and their season and their Super Bowl window on this faith and these potential and these skills that people assure me that Sam Darnold has, but which I have never seen. And I cannot reconcile those two things. I have never seen all these skills that he supposedly has actually equate to great quarterback or even good quarterback play on the field. And the sample is just too big now for me to believe that he's suddenly going to be anything different.
So here's where I think Chris Sims normally, I think what affects his rankings to where they don't do well, and maybe you'll agree with this. I think he sticks by his pre-draft idea of a quarterback too strongly. You get multiple years removed, and he's very hesitant to move up quarterbacks that he wasn't high on, and very lenient with quarterbacks that he was high on. And I think the best example of that were the last 2 people you had on the list, because the list isn't complete. And that was Kenny Pickett is still above Brock Purdy. In what world can you justify that? Both of them played as rookies, and Brock Purdy was a heck of a lot better as a rookie.
I think, and again, I'm
100% pre-draft opinion.
Chris can argue for himself, but he's not here. So what I think he would tell you is that if you put Kenny Pickett where Brock Purdy was, he would produce comparable numbers. That's what I think he would tell you.
It's possible, but I think Brock Purdy is uniquely advanced in terms of being able to process quickly and the confidence that he had as a rookie to just make any throw and say, yes, sir, that's where you want me to throw it. That's where I'm going to throw it. Whereas Kenny Pickett, I think and I watched a lot of Pittsburgh games because I live in Pittsburgh. He has a different level to him, and being a first-round pick, he has an expectation of carrying the team. So he was ad-libbing a little bit more, and he was trying to take shots a lot more because that team wasn't quite good enough. TJ Watt missed most of the season, so the defense wasn't at its normal level. So I think he felt like he had to press some. So I'm not convinced that that would translate. You know, if he came to the Niners, I think he might still try a little too much and take the deep shot a little too often and ignore the opportunities that Kyle Shanahan creates in the underneath game.
It's interesting to hear you say that, because one of the things that Brock said this week that I absolutely loved, they asked him, like, did you go back and did you look at, you know, strengths and weaknesses and things like that? And he said one of the weaknesses he saw was that when he first got in there, he was very much stick to the plan, paint by numbers, throw it where I'm supposed to throw it, when I'm supposed to throw it. And he admitted the longer he got in there, he started getting into this habit of trying to make plays on his own and getting out of the structure of the system, and how Kyle and Brian Greasy are trying to drill into him. Do not do that, because we saw him get less effective as he went in there because he was ad-libbing so much instead of just sticking to the script. So I love that he was aware of that. That is awesome. And hopefully it's something he can clean up. It's not easy to train that out of a quarterback, but at least he recognizes it and he's going to try.
Yeah. And I mean, there is the next step coming. You know, some players, they can come in and succeed right away. And we see this in all sports, by the way. And then the opponents adjust to them. Mm-hmm. They go, this is what we've seen on film. You do really well. And this is what we've seen on film that you're not as good at. We're going to force you to do the things you're not as good at. Some players are capable of overcoming that and being good enough at those things that they still punish you to where, okay, now we have to play you honest. And some quarterbacks, like a Nick Mullins, for instance, once they took away the inside and made him throw outside, he was incapable of overcoming that. And his career was never the same because he's just not, he didn't have the arm strength to throw outside. And you see that with, you know, I think that's probably the strongest when you're talking about a pitcher versus a hitter in Major League Baseball, because there's huge adjustments there. But you see it in all sports, and Purdy has that coming. They now have an offseason of film of Purdy in Shanahan's offense. They're going to see what he did well and see the things that maybe he had a blind spot to, and they're going to come out and force him to go to those things that he wasn't as good at. And can he adjust? Can he limit his weaknesses, not make mistakes? You know, maybe they do more things to do like double moves in order to try to trick him into throwing an interception. Have a little bit more underneath coverage where it looks like a blitz is coming and then the guy sinks instead into coverage. Things like that, which we saw some clips. I think Rich Madrid posted some of them. There were a couple times where that's what happened, and he almost threw an interception to a linebacker. The linebacker simply didn't catch it. It hit both his hands. So I will be interested to see if he can overcome that.
And that's any quarterback. That adjustment and then hopeful readjustment happens, whether it's Purdy, whether it's Lance, Trevor Lawrence, it doesn't matter. That's just the ebb and flow of your career and how it goes along. Steve Young once said playing quarterback is all about what you can't do, because teams are always going to push you into those things. And you, if you're going to be an elite player, have to become good at those things and rise above it. And we don't know that Lance will. And he's got the additional elbow to overcome. Did you see the video that Stefania Bell put out of ESPN, which we tweeted out from our handle at GS Podcasts on Twitter, of like the actual, she had a model of an elbow, and it was like an actual model of what Brock's ligament would look like and what the brace is and how it like is anchored into the bone and stuff. It was actually really, really cool. The brace apparently is made out of something like Kevlar, which is what they make bulletproof vests out of. So it's pretty damn strong.
Yeah, actually, my brother-in-law just was wearing that same exact brace. It was a similar injury, but different, but they gave him the same brace. He he fell playing soccer with my niece and tried to brace his arm and ended up snapping his elbow. He broke his elbow. So different injury, but same area. And he had that same brace with the big metal, ring right here that's holding everything together. And so, yeah, I actually know what that brace is and see.
No, you're thinking of like the external brace.
But yeah. The external brace that he's been wearing since surgery.
Right.
You're talking about the internal one.
Yes. Yeah. In the video, I'm talking about the one that's actually inside his elbow right now as we speak. And she kind of described it as a seatbelt for the ligament, which I think is really an interesting way to put it. I just thought it was fascinating to actually see.
Yeah, I didn't see that video.
It's very cool. Why don't you follow at GS Podcast on Twitter? Then you would have seen it. We tweeted it out.
Maybe I have a job.
Maybe you do. Maybe you need to care about GS Podcasts a little bit more. How about that? All I'm saying, it's about priorities.
Yeah.
I just thought that was really cool.
I'm paid huge amounts of money to care, let me tell you.
But I will increase your pay 100% if you.
Thank you.
Yes, 100% of nothing.
Yeah, I can't wait to tell my wife. I'm so excited.
The other thing that I'm not happy with coming out of OTAs, and most of the reports have been pretty good, which is not uncommon for OTAs. There's a lot of hopium right now for everybody, and why not? If you can't be hopeful in May, then you don't have a lot to look forward to. But we got conflicting reports, and I texted you a picture, and it started with the kickers because I saw back-to-back tweets on my timeline where Matt Mayoko says Jake Moody and Zane Gonzalez both hit field goals of 33, 38, and 43 yards. Both missed from 48. And then I see a tweet from David Lombardi who says Jake Moody nailed all of his field goal attempts at practice today. Now, I'm not saying that Lombardi is deliberately lying to people. That is not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is sometimes you can miss things at practice because there's so much going on, but the result...
and you're like people don't understand that. Like, you can be 200 yards away from the field that something is happening on.
Right. Yeah. The Niners don't exactly always put you close up all the time. But the result, regardless of the reason why, is conflicting reports. And that is so frustrating for me as someone that lives in Connecticut. I need to know what's going on. I can't get it. Damn it.
There was another conflict in the kicking. I don't think you saw that.
Was it?
I read Matt Barrow's OTA report right when he posted it, because I happened to be on Twitter, saw it, and was like, oh, okay, I'll read it. He said that they missed kicks from 50, and then it later changed to 48.
Oh, boy.
So how did that change? Because it's literally like, there's no film of it. The Niners might have film of it, but it's not like they called and said, hey, you're off by 2 yards, change it.
Right. Well, there's that. And then Grant said that Jair Brown looked very good. And Larry Krueger, who was also there, as he lets everyone know, said that Jair Brown did not look exceptional, did not look like anything special. Didn't necessarily say he was bad. But again, I just want to know what to believe here, people. Help me out.
You're not going to get any help. I mean, you can go look at, I saw Cam Inman, I saw Grant Cohn, and it was either Mayoko or Barrows. They broke down the quarterbacks and what they did. Yep. And none of the three had the same stats. They were all off in one way or another. They're all minor changes. One said 11 of 15 for Lance. One said 12 of 16. One said that Allen was 5 for 5. Two of them said he was 7 for 7. You know, none of them were like huge. Oh, they really missed something here. But yeah, they were all like different number of throws and just a slight change there. And it's like, I get it. It's hard. I'm guessing they had, because the Niners love to do that. They have the defense close and the offense far away. That's what I've heard from reporters that are there. I think Grant has mentioned it multiple times, that a lot of times when they have like something that they know the media really wants to see, or something that's true, like game installed during like actual training camp or something key to the season, it happens on the far field.
I can deal with, hey, you've got Lance completing 12 passes, so-and-so has him completing 13 or 14, whatever. I can deal with that. I just want to know, generally, does this person look good or do they not look good? Because we couldn't even find that out for sure about Trey Lance last year, and we certainly had conflicting reports about Brock Purdy last year.
Dude, you can't even get that with games. Right. Was Jakarski Tart any good? You still have people that say, yeah, he was good. He just wasn't elite. No, the guy's unemployed. He obviously wasn't very good. You know, you have people argue all the time amongst different players on the team, because some fans go, yeah, that guy's really good. And some people say, no, he's really bad. You even have content creators who truly break down film regularly disagree with the evaluation of a player and will post the same videos or same plays and say, see, and yet they have a different conclusion, because I think part of it is what you lean towards going in and a confirmation bias. You're going to see what you want to see.
Very frustrating for me. damn it. Just tell me what to think. But
that's what I'm here for.
Yeah, right into that. I walked right into it. You'd think I would have learned by now, but apparently not. Just to go over a quick few things. I've heard that Ronnie Bell looks very good. I love hearing that. Basically, everything that I've heard, which is basically he doesn't wow you physically, but he's always catching the damn ball. I think that is exactly the type of receiver the 49ers need. Jawan Jennings is going to be a free agent after the year. Yes, please, Ronnie Bell, come on down, step right into that third down role, and let's just keep this train a-moving.
Okay, something you need to get on that soundboard over there is a sound to play when I'm about to be a wet blanket.
Yes, a sound alert.
That would be a good idea, because here it comes. Yeah, cool. Ronnie Bell's catching everything. We have seen plenty of players that the media all say, wow, that guy's really impressing. He's looked really good. And then they don't even make the team because Shanahan's looking at something else. I think actual like statistical, whether you catch it, whether you don't in practice doesn't matter nearly as much. Are you doing the right things? Are you in the right spot? Things like that matter so much more to Kyle Shanahan. He doesn't care about, oh, this guy had 7 catches and this guy only had 2.
Right.
To a degree, that's going to matter some, but I think Kyle Shanahan really does not care. So seeing a guy catch it all the time, maybe Kyle Shanahan has it designed for him to get to catch it, and he knows he's going to be open every time because he's the decoy, or he's the guy that he wants to get the ball, and everybody else is a decoy because he wants to see what they do on real routes and stuff. You don't know what it is. So to me, like, it's nice. To me, I look for mistakes. I think those are a lot more valuable than great plays. Oh, this guy mossed somebody on a play. It doesn't matter because the likelihood of that happening in the game isn't very good. But if somebody is making a bunch of mistakes or consistently making mistakes, I think that translates a lot better.
So you're saying Ronnie Bell is the Trent Taylor Memorial Training Camp hero?
He's the odds-on favorite at this point.
He very well
move on, Gray. You've been replaced.
How many times did we hear Trent Taylor and Jimmy Garoppolo have really established a rapport?
Taylor's back.
It looks really good. Although,
you know what? More mileage out of a halfway decent rookie season than anybody.
He just signed a new deal with Cincinnati a little while ago. So
he's an NFL quality wide receiver. It was just everybody thought he was going to come in and be like a Hunter Renfrow, somebody that can have 80 catches in a short slot position.
He had 6 catches last year for 62 yards in 16 games with the Bengals. But I was rooting for him in the Super Bowl. Like, granted, I was rooting against the Rams because fuck the Rams. But I was hoping that he would get a ring. But alas, he did not. So he looked good, Ronnie Bell, that is. And Darrell Luter looked good too, according to Grant, who that's exciting because Adam Peters after the draft basically said, like, this is a guy we think that can come in and be good right away. And the 49ers desperately need help at corner. So that would be a massive boost.
Yeah, somebody needs to develop there because it's inevitable somebody gets hurt at corner. I mean, exactly. Getting all 3 to stay healthy all year is just not going to happen. How serious of the injury, who knows? But, you're going to have guy miss a game here or game there because corner is one of those that it's really hard to play when you're gimpy. If you're gimpy, you're going to get toasted. So it's hard to play with like, oh, my hamstring's not 100%.
And you got to have people that at the bare minimum are not liabilities, right? Brian Allen was a liability and he got exposed by Ryan Fitzpatrick again and again and again. The Niners pass rush is going to be good enough to where all we need is average, decent play in the secondary. And that should be good enough most weeks. And so if Darrell Luter can do that in year 1, that's a boost. And I hope it carries over. Again, I know you're going to poo-poo everything, but I was happy to see that. That made me smile. Is that okay in May?
Yeah, that's okay. It's just not oh, wow, this guy's so good, we got to steal. You can't say that yet.
Yes, I would agree with that. I think that is 100% fair. Was there anything else that Kyle said or Lance or Darnold or Purdy that jumped out at you? Because I feel like we mentioned that at the top and we got away from it. And I just want to make sure that we cover everything.
I don't think anything really jumped out. I mean, all 3 quarterbacks are very good at saying the right thing. You know, I'd love to get their true, honest opinions because they know what they're doing. You know, it's different. They're better at it than Jimmy, because Jimmy was I'm not going to say anything. And so then everybody knew he was just being, you know, disingenuous. Whereas these guys, they talk. But in the midst of them talking, they are saying the perfect PC, great thing to say.
He's looking fucking good.
True opinion, or is that not? Don't know.
He's looking fucking good.
Yeah, like Lance saying, I'm just here to compete. I guarantee deep down he's going, I want to fucking start.
Well, that's what I want him to say. Say it. He won't. He won't, but I want him to. I wish he would.
I mean, it's human nature. Darnold should say the same thing. I want to effing start. Now,
well, but like
everybody should think that unless they're like a 10-year vet, like a Chase Daniels. Chase Daniels saying that in his 10th year is a little not good. I mean, everybody knew he was a backup. He's never started. But everybody should be coming in thinking, hey, I'm good enough. And none of them say it. They all go, oh, I'm just here to compete. You know, Lance even said Purdy deserves the shot because of what he did last season. Yeah. He might believe that he deserves a shot, but that doesn't mean that he doesn't believe that he shouldn't lose his job due to injury, which is the thing.
I hope he secretly believes, put me on the field next to Brock and I'll beat him out on the field. I hope that's what Trey Lance believes. If he doesn't believe that, he's got no shot. I hope that, if deep down in places he doesn't talk about at parties, he thinks, I'm better than him. I'll show it. I could run faster than him. I could throw it farther than him. I'm smarter than him. He should think all of that about himself. And if he doesn't, that's a problem. But he'll never reveal it, even though I really, really want him to.
Yeah. I mean, that's the best way to put it. He's never going to say it. He is definitely a very PC. I know you talked to him prior to the draft, before he was even a 49er, and he wasn't going to say anything controversial. The most controversial thing he said is that he likes ranch on pizza.
Still, I'll never forgive him for that. Like, dude,
my wife has gotten my kid addicted to ranch. You know what my kid does now? So my wife, North Dakota, ranch is everything out there. It's not a condiment. It is a sauce. And now my wife, she didn't push it on her, be like, ooh, ranch. But she definitely like gave her the option of ranch often. My kid now, when she gets like a ranch cup to dip her nuggets in or something like that, when she's done with the nuggets, even if she's like still has nuggets left, she's just full, she picks up the ranch cup and starts drinking it.
Oh my God.
Nobody ever pushed it on her. She does that on her own. She loves like sweet and sour sauce from like McDonald's. In the occasion that we get McDonald's chicken nuggets, she doesn't drink it when she's done with the nuggets.
But she drinks
only does that with ranch.
That's the echelon that ranch has been elevated to. That's funny. I don't get the ranch fascination. I would never.
I like ranch. It's just there are a lot of other things I would rather have ranch on. There are certain things that ranch has to be it with, but like to me, like wings, don't put freaking ranch on my wings. I want to taste the sauce. If I wanted to taste ranch, I wouldn't get any sauce on my wing. I would just dip it in ranch. Things like that drive me nuts. But like I like ranch. I get ranch on a salad every once in a while. But like if you're talking about chicken nuggets, I want a good strong honey mustard or a buffalo sauce sometimes or a barbecue sauce sometimes. Not ranch.
Yeah, I don't get that. If there is one condiment that you had to drink straight up, what would it be?
To drink?
Yep.
I mean, that's a whole different ball game because like mustard would probably be the one that like if you're talking about simple condiment that you don't have to mix with other things that I would never want to get rid of. Well, hot sauce, I guess in general, because I do put hot sauce on a good bit of things. Like I'm somebody, I have like 6 different hot sauces because different hot sauces go better with, I have Cholula. Right. I have the Louisiana. I have the Frank's Red Hot Sauce because they go good on things on, different things they're better on. But to drink, I'm not drinking hot sauce. I'm not drinking mustard, even though I really like mustard. I'm not drinking horseradish, even though like one of my favorite things is to put horseradish on stuff. So I would say probably barbecue sauce, because I do like a good barbecue sauce, and I could get by drinking it.
That's probably like the easiest one, I would say. That's a good choice by you.
I will say I don't care for like honey barbecues. I want a smoky molasses barbecue. And if anybody out there is from the Carolinas and says, "Ooh, mustard barbecue," fuck off. That's not barbecue. I lived in the Carolinas for a year and I hated that. I literally went, and this, like, everybody around there, this was in Columbia, South Carolina, they're like, "Oh, this is the greatest barbecue place to go." And we went, and they literally didn't have a regular barbecue sauce. It was all mustard-based barbecue, and that's not barbecue.
Never had a mustard-based barbecue. I would be willing to give it a try. I don't know if I'll feel as passionate about it as you. If you have, let us know. Leave it in your review in the comments, and maybe you could sway me one way or the other. That's going to do it for this edition of the show. Please rate, review, and follow the Gold Standard Podcast Network.
You going to read the second half of the review that you read with Fish that you decided not to read? Because I caught that.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, yes, you do. I bet you do. You read a review with Vish, and it was critical in the beginning.
Yes, it was.
Then he said some nice things about me, but you left that part out.
He said, Levin is pretty good. This is from Zeradin. Levin is pretty good. I'll watch every Thursday for him, but that Star Wars episode went off the rails. I loved the Star Wars. The Star Wars episode was fun, damn it.
It went to a galaxy far, far away. Okay. Not the same thing.
Two of those stupid.
It's the off season. But yeah. You left that part out with Vish, huh?
I did. It wasn't relevant to the conversation.
I had read that review and it's like, oh, I bet that's the one that he's going to read on Thursday when we're recording. And then you read it with Vish. So I'm sitting there waiting on it. And then you cut it out.
Anytime I can disappoint you, I'm all for it. By the way,
once a week, about an hour.
Damn it, that's twice. Damn it. The first part of the review said, ever since I was hosting on ESPN Radio, that I've somehow changed. I have bad news for that reviewer, by the way. I will be on ESPN Radio again this weekend, Saturday, from 10 a.m. Eastern to 3:30 p.m. Eastern with Dari Noka and Michelle Smallman.
Huh. I used to listen to Dari on my way to work. Who was he on with? Now I'm forgetting who he was on with.
Dari and Mel.
Oh, Mel. Yeah, the Mel. Him and Mel's show was on during like my hour commute when I lived in North Dakota. That's the show that was on what was it, Saturday mornings that they were always on? Yeah.
So I used to produce that show at times. So now it'll be fun to work with Dari on the other side of the glass. But there is more hosting on ESPN Radio for me in the future, which is awesome. And I'm super excited about it. So if you want to get a chance to hear me talk about things other than the 49ers, feel free.
Does that make you a Disney princess?
I would love to be a Disney princess. All right. You put me up there with Moana and
there hasn't been one from Connecticut.
I don't think that would make for a very good movie. What's her biggest problem? She can't get insurance.
Isn't there what is it? A Yankee in
King Arthur's Court?
No, sorry. Something in Connecticut's a king in Connecticut. There's a famous book that has Connecticut in the title.
A Yankee in King Arthur's Court, I think, is what you're thinking of.
Is he from Connecticut in the book? Is that what I'm thinking of? There's something with Connecticut.
I've read like 3 books in my life, and most of them are in the background of my shot.
It shows.
Good night, everybody. I hope you have a great week. Everybody except Levin.